In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
You magnificent bastard, I read your book. I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Captain. 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 Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain.
No, not yet. Don't pass out on me yet.
Terrain. Pull up.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
Of course you realize this means war.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Always spell it with a K. A mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense in its concomitant wail as it wafts from that petrifying edifice. And late at night, when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, palatial, and effulgently bulbous SHR Media studios, I'll be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from that mentally destitute column structure aforementioned. Tonight, Back Hair Bernadette is going to be your bartendress tonight. She pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted, as you can see to my right, your left, indicating you can listen and chat at shrmedia.com. You can watch the show on the SHR Media YouTube channel, Facebook page, or Periscope. I gotta tell you this, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime culture, economics, race, sex, science, law, we talk about it all here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred, the speech is free. But the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight, great show for you. Only 2 years in the making. And then later on, in the second hour, after I speak to Joe Wambaugh, we'll have happy stories, good times, little information about Virginia, little information about impeachment, some great audio cuts. You're not going to want to miss that either. So coming up, is an interview that I had yesterday with Joe Wambaugh because he unfortunately wasn't available at my time here, and the window was open and limited, so I had to take advantage of that window quite appropriately.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Tonight we have a very special guest, police author Joe Wambaugh, who pretty much single-handedly turned police procedural writing upside down and engaged not just one, but a number of law enforcement generations over a span of, get this, 42 years of writing. So welcome, Sergeant Joe Wambaugh, and thank you very, very kindly for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Before we get going, as I told you just before we started the show, the major reason I wanted to interview you, Sergeant Wambaugh, is because of your writing and what it's meant to me personally over the years. I grew up with your writing in the 70s. I purchased every book you ever wrote. And as a young cop in California in the 70s, your books, vernacular, they became mine and all the other cops around me through the 70s and into the 80s. There wasn't a cop in my department who didn't call suspects scrotes and marvel at the night the Padre tried to eat pressed ham through the wrapper. We read about Spermway Whalen and the Bad Check and so many more incredible, poignant characters. The deal is you spoke for us. You wrote for us. You represented us, warts and all, at a time when cops were largely just impersonal automatons, like big, tough cops, not historically inveterate readers. We all snapped up your books the moment a new one came out. So from me and to all the other law enforcement officers who are listening right now, I say thank you very much.
Well, thank you for those kind words. Made my day.
Your books, Joe Wambaugh, your books just kept getting better and better, and they set new trends. The arguments, I can remember being in briefing. The arguments went on for weeks, I remember, when your book, The Onion Field, was published. Officers were arguing, okay, do I give up my gun? Do I not give up my gun regarding Carl Hettinger? And the discussions were endless. You know, the three major incidents were in the 70s, well, specifically in the 70s, were the Onion Field, and we all talked about that, and your book. And the CHP Newhall shootings and the Norco bank robbery in 1980. So I got to tell you this, Joe Wambaugh, speaking to you tonight is for me a kind of like getting to talk to your most admired film star. Each book allowed me to remember what I was doing and where I was when they came out. So again, my thanks to you, Sergeant Joe Wambaugh, for all the great books you wrote and the insight and entertainment you provided for 41 years. That is one hell of a remarkable and brilliant run.
Well, I don't feel so much like a retired old geezer after that. Thank you, Mark.
And I mean that sincerely from the heart. One of the first things that became obvious to your cop readers are the clashes that occurred between cops and their administrators and managers. And you broke that mold. No one had really addressed those issues beforehand. And my guess is it's because you were personally treated in some kind of a malignant fashion back then.
Oh, I don't know, Mark. I mean, I probably had my bad days, like we all do, but I was just an observer, and I saw things, and I just decided that I was going to tell the stories in a different way. And as the years went on and I was interviewed, I had to think it through and try to decide how I did it. It was unconscious. But what I did was, instead of telling how the cop acts on the job, which is what all police procedurals had ever done, and I wasn't sure I was even writing a police procedural. it was more intimate. It was inside the cop's head. So instead of telling a story of how the cop acts on the job, I decided to tell the story of how the job acts on the cop. And whether the reader realizes it or not, they spend an awful lot of time inside the cop's head and heart and soul, if we have one. And that's what I think made my work so different from anything else that had been done before that.
But that's where you took the mold and you broke it, and that was, in my estimation, the absolutely brilliant insight. The other thing that hooked cops as readers was the immediate I mean, if there was anybody whose books are character-driven, I mean, it's got to be yours. There wasn't any cop that didn't immediately identify characters in your books. There isn't a cop alive who read a Joe Wambaugh book and hasn't said, I know that guy, or I know that guy, or my God, that is exactly blah, blah, blah. That's Lieutenant so-and-so. That's Captain so-and-so. You spoke brilliantly for all of these officers who saw you and then knew those characters when you introduced them.
Yeah, my books are not so much plot-driven, my fiction. They're character-driven. And going back to what I said before, it's how the job acts on the cop that I was interested in. When it came to the onion field, for example, I wasn't so interested as a writer in the story of the cops being disarmed and kidnapped and driven to a remote onion field where one of them was summarily executed and the other survived and ran for his life. Yes, that was very exciting as a story, but what really grabbed me was what happened to the surviving officer, how the job acted on him. And it became a character-driven story, and I guess it was probably the first, perhaps the first book about cops that dealt with that dealt with the stress. What's the term I'm looking for, Mark?
Like PTSD or the
PTSD,
like the
yes.
long-term stress.
Yes, it's probably the first nonfiction book about a cop that dealt with something that wasn't even identified in those days, PTSD. That's a much later term. And that's what interested me in the story.
Okay, of course, I have to ask this. Your popularity exploded. People made TV shows out of your books. They made movies out of your books. So let me ask you, Joe Wambaugh, did anybody get it right, in your opinion, in any of the TV shows or the movies that were spun from your books? Did anybody do it right?
Yes, I did. I wrote and produced as a silent producer, but I had money in the project, so I had power. I wrote and produced The Onion Field and the Black Marble novel. So those two movies got it right because I did them.
Okay. Alrighty. I can remember from a long time ago, I tried to remember the quote, and you're going to have to correct me if I'm incorrect, but I seem to remember back a number of years ago that you thought they absolutely trashed the movie, trashed your book, The CHOIRBOYS.
Yeah, I was embarrassed. I went to see it in a theater in Pasadena. I lived in that area, and when it opened, and I can recall being with my wife watching that horrible mess. And when it ended, it was late, and the lights came up in the theater. And as I was walking out, there were a whole bunch of cops sitting in the back rows, and I'll never forget. They recognized me, and I was so embarrassed. I just wanted to crawl out of that theater. I was humiliated. I hated that so much that I suppose that's why I got involved in the making of the two movies that I just mentioned. Also, we got it right a good deal of the time in the television show Police Story.
Oh, Police Story,
weekly
right?
Series. Yes, we got it right. But I was once again involved in the production. So for the first couple of years, 2-3 years, we really got it right. When I left the show, it changed, and I won't vouch for those later episodes.
It seems to me you kind of got back at Hollywood a little bit with your novel, The Glitter Dome, and I can't help but think that was kind of cathartic to a degree, and conversely, you kind of skewered the LAPD and the black marble. So was that cathartic for you, getting the truth of what happened out onto your pages in books?
Yeah, I think that's probably always cathartic for a writer to get something out there that he or she recognizes as the truth. You know, the truth with a capital T. And so, it was a wonderful feeling to know that it was as true as I could make it.
You were a Marine. You had a history of police officers in your family. You got a degree in English, and you were going to be an English teacher for a while until you kind of saw how much cops were making. Can you recall maybe, I don't know, a time or an incident where you said something similar to, screw it, I am writing a police novel and I'm doing it now? How did you make that decision, or maybe something made that decision for you?
No, I think it just kind of happened because I suspect that people who write books, as I did, probably are born with a certain creative energy and a certain need to do it. And I wasn't aware of all that. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old, just out of high school. I was just a baby, and spent 3 years, and then I started taking classes on the GI Bill, and I discovered that I was actually good at something. I was good in the English classes, anything that involved reading or writing. I excelled in those classes. I wasn't great in everything else. And everybody who's ever majored in English, everybody has a secret closet desire to write.
Oh, boy.
Even if they'd never admit it. They have a desire to write. And what they all do is say, I'm going to be a teacher, which is what I said. And I thought I was going to teach English, and I just got sick of going to college, I guess. And when I was 23 years old, right after my birthday, I just thought, the hell with it. I'm going to do something else. I can teach later. And something that always interested me was police work. When I was a very small child, my dad was a cop. And it always seemed like an interesting, very interesting way to go in terms of making a living, and it certainly was, and I enjoyed it and sort of thrived, but I wasn't planning on writing. I planned on doing 20 years with the LAPD and retiring and being an English teacher, and then maybe trying writing at a later time. But the bug bit me, all the experiences I had as a cop. I mean, after 10 years of that, I had a ton of experiences, and I just had to get them down on paper, I guess.
Joe Wambaugh, speaking of which, I'm hearing some rumors about possibly making a series from your 5 Hollywood Station books. Is there any veracity to any of those rumors?
Oh, from your lips to God's ears, I hope so. I mean, I've been trying for several years now since we published the first book, Hollywood Station, and the 4 that followed. I mean, I keep getting bites from people in Hollywood. They keep talking about it, and yet it hasn't happened. There are 2 meetings this week that I know of going on in Hollywood with, let's see, Warner Brothers, Paramount and I think MGM. About that, producers trying to get interest in turning those books into, a long miniseries, but hasn't happened yet. I keep hoping because I think the Hollywood Station series of 5 books would be a natural for television, just a natural.
Oh, especially considering the shows that are on right now and the flexibility that they would have to be. I am way in your corner on that, and I should like to submit that everybody listening to this right now, oh my God, would they like to see your books turned into something like that?
Well, no more than I would.
Trust me, we're all pulling for you. I've been told that you should never ask a parent if they have a favorite child, and I don't know, maybe the same is true for authors. But do you have a favorite novel of your own, in whatever fashion, where, I don't know, maybe things just all seemed to come together? Maybe not necessarily because of the topic, but because everything just seemed to gel. The writing, the publishing, everything.
Well, and for the nonfiction books, I've written 4 nonfiction, one of them being The Onion Field, and that one is probably my most famous book and was a huge success, and that's probably a favorite of the nonfiction. But of the, I've written 21 books altogether,
right?
So most of them, of course, are novels. So of the novels, I would have to say one that was never filmed. Hollywood never bought it, but somehow I feel closer to it, and it's The Secrets of Harry Bright.
Okay.
And I guess the reason I do is because it's a story of fathers and sons. It's not so much a police story, even though it's about crime and police,
right? But
it's a story of fathers and sons. And boy, that's a deep topic.
Is there anything or a series of things or a couple of things that they were there to help you and educate you when you first started learning about writing or publishing, but for whatever reason they just didn't happen? In other words, what are some of the things or a thing that you wished you'd learned earlier in either writing or the business of publishing?
Well, I guess in the publishing world, it's probably a good thing that we don't realize how many people there are out there trying to publish books. Because if we did, we'd probably give up. The competition would be so ferocious. And it's probably good that I didn't know much at all about the publishing game. And so I was just naive enough to sit down and do it and just hope that someday somebody will publish something. I never thought of making money, never. I didn't think that was possible, but I thought that something might get published, maybe a book. And if one book got published, that would be enough of an honor to hold me for a lifetime. And that's truly what I thought, I swear. I never considered making money. And so maybe that was a pretty good way to go into it. You know, when I hear young aspiring novelists talking about their ambitions, it seems to me that too often it's about making money, and the questions they ask me are about that, and I just don't know what to say except, write your story, write it for yourself, and hope. That's the way to go into it, I think. If you go into it thinking you're going to make a living at it, to me, I think that would handcuff you when you're telling your story. It would be harmful.
Joe Wambaugh, money aside, like you mentioned, why do you think that you were successful, do you think?
Well, as I say, I did have a unique approach of not telling a police story from a plot-driven point of view, telling how the cop acts on the job. I avoided that, and I did something different. I turned it on its head and told how the job acts on the cop. And so the whole book was told from the inside of the cop. We're getting into the cop's head, the cop's heart, the cop's soul. And that was unique. And I think that helped me a whole lot to become successful, because people weren't used to that, didn't know quite what to make of that. And I can tell you for sure that the Onion Field exemplified that to the extreme. What became the story wasn't the kidnapping and murder of Officer Ian Campbell. It was how Officer Carl Hettinger survived without blowing his brains out. And I guess the readers hadn't seen anything like that until my books came along.
That was trend-setting. Most everything you've done is trend-setting. So, Joe Wambaugh, what do you want to be known for?
Oh, I'd like to be known for, I suppose, telling a good cop story. I like being called the cop author. You know, there's people always refer to me with those two words.
Right.
Cop author. I kind of like that.
Well, Sergeant Joseph Wambaugh, on behalf of myself and literally the thousands and thousands of cops you've affected over 42 years of writing, I want to thank you for your books, the entertainment and the diversions you've provided for all of law enforcement, for humanizing cops, for letting us laugh at ourselves, to see our faults, our vulnerabilities, the warts, you know, whatever goodness exists within us, and to let people into a world where even when they see it, sometimes they don't believe what we actually saw. You have made thousands of cops happy over their careers, and you have made just about an equal number happy tonight by speaking to me and them. One final thing before we go, and I have to mention this. In the 1990s, when I was in homicide, I sent a general overall letter to you letting you know that I appreciated your books, and I continue to reread them. I do that today. You sent me a signed, imprinted bookmark. I framed that bookmark, and it's been on my wall all these years. So I want to thank you ever so much for giving. If there's any individual, folks, who gave law enforcement a voice, it's you, sir. And so for that, I want to very much thank you.
I really appreciate it, Mark. I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so kindly for speaking with me today. God bless you, sir. Take care and be safe. That is Joe Wambaugh. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At the end of this, he said he wanted to come back. And one thing that he forgot, just as we were wrapping up and I was giving my thanks, he said, I wish I'd talked about the humor that I inserted in my books. Because up until then, police procedurals, which is what people were reading at the time, because he was so brand new with his character-driven books, he said the other thing that I think I helped in cop novels was I inserted a sense of humor that people didn't see coming. A lot of my my books had a lot of black humor, and I knew that I would make some people erupt simultaneously in laughter and a little bit in shock. That was Joe Wambaugh, and you're listening to BZ. I am the bloviating Zeppelin right here on BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. You can follow me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP. You can like me and follow me on my Facebook page, Bloviating Zeppelin. Please friend, follow, and like the SHR Media Facebook page and subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Click notifications right there and give our videos a big thumbs up. We got great hosts, great videos, and great shows. And also, I am a supporter of the Second Amendment. Are you? You can join the U.S. Gun Owners Association on Facebook. So I'm saying, let's rock this media world. Move me, if you would, please, for God's sake. Move me out of the category of best late-night conservatarian talk show you've never heard of, okay? Make Clyde the Bobcat proud. Make Demi the studio cat proud of me, if you would, please. I got one call waiting, and then I'm going to go into a piece that I kind of unearthed again. I wrote about this, probably 2008, 2009, right around in there, and I found it again. But in the meantime, I think I've got somebody on the phone. Who is it? Unidentified strange caller. Go ahead and identify yourself, or unmask yourself, if you will.
I'm going to unmask myself as Mike.
Ah, Mike, how you doing, sir? Good to see you.
You know, your previous interview there, I think we can basically thank him for police procedurals like, you know, NCIS and Law and Order and all these things that are very, very popular nowadays. You know, you look at these things and basically you look at those books that he wrote, and they basically follow that scenario. That how he does his books is how they do their shows right now, you know?
I have to tell you, quite frankly, I can say it now, I had to do everything that I could to not gush. I read his books, what was I? I was in my 30s, in the 70s. Shh, don't tell anybody that. But these books came out, I think he wrote it in 70, got it published in 71, maybe 72, if I'm not mistaken. When the new Centurions came out, it broke the mold of the old staid. The Adam 12 obviously wasn't out yet. Of the old, the Sergeant Joe Friday, Just the Facts, ma'am. I mean, this gave you that. Let's see, what was his second book? The Blue Knight. So, the new Centurions, the Blue Knight, and then, oh my God, the CHOIRBOYS. When the CHOIRBOYS came out, I remember all the cops around me in the department, they were all laughing like bastards and bastardettes because they were all saying, I know that dude, or I know that guy, or I've seen that, or I've done that, or it's every bit as terrible as he explains. Every cop could relate to Scroats. Everybody could relate to the terrible price that's exacted on you. An FTO said to me years ago, and I use that too. Cop work is essentially 10 hours of sheer boredom intersecting with 30 seconds of sheer terror. And you never know when that's going to be. Ever. And so when he came out, he was talking. It's like I opened these books, and he's talking to me. He's talking to all my friends. He's talking to all the people that I look up to. He's talking about my sergeants, my FTOs. He's talking about all these people. And I'm reading his books and going, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I have never read anything like this before, and I don't think we really will ever again. He had a voice. I don't know if you guys read. I don't know how much you read. There are two authors in particular that don't write much exposition. And exposition is just a description of a situation, a narrative, and there's not much dialogue going on. I think, for example, Robert Ludlum, I can't read him anymore. He is too damn wordy. I can't read Stephen King. He's too damn wordy. It's like, dude, get to your point. It's like, you write just to write. But the guy who is the king of dialogue is Elmore Leonard. If you've never read an Elmore Leonard novel, go quick like a bunny and go get one.
Right.
And Elmore Leonard went all through many genres. He was into cops and robbers, but he also did westerns. Read a Joe Wambaugh book. His dialogue, spot on. And then if you can take it, I challenge you, read a James Ellroy book. The early James Ellroy books are much more easily digestible, but his books, from about his fifth on, are unique, and you are either going to love James Ellroy or you're going to hate James Ellroy. But again, the dude is the king of sparse, terse dialogue. Historically. Just amazing, amazing stuff. I am so blessed to have been able to talk to Joe Wambaugh.
Right, after Joe Wambaugh, think about it. After his first or second book, what came out? Barney Miller, Chips, Hill Street Blues. And then T.J. Hooker's another one. Just recently, you had NYPD Blue and of course Law and Order. All those shows can owe their success, or whatever you want to say, to this guy, because I bet you that, the creators created those shows, but they created those shows probably from what they read in some of those books that Joe Wambaugh did,
Well, he opened the door for the cop author. Up until that time, there really hadn't been any cop authors. I don't know if anybody remembers Ed Bain. Ed Bain was, for a time, the real king of the police procedural. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't have anything up in front of me right now. I think he used to be a cop. And it was it was cut and dried. Wambaugh broke that crap open. And that's why to get an opportunity, and it took me, I'm not kidding, back and forth, just about 2 years to get to that interview. And a half hour, that was enough. He made that quite clear. I get it. And then he did one interview in 2019 that I found. And during that interview, he made it very clear, very plain. He's not writing anymore. Okay, I get that. If you haven't read any of the Hollywood Station novels, though, with Flotsam and Jetsam, the two officers there, like surf dudes, you got to get those books, too. Anything else, Mike?
Well, no. I mean, just to say this, that I love you when you do your authors. You do your interviews with your authors. They're very interesting cats. And
they are, and I've got a couple coming up. I'm going to be talking to Kurt Schlichter again. Kurt's just the massive political animal, number one, so I love the hell out of him for that. Number two, he's got a new book that just came out, so I'll be talking to him about that. Matthew Betley's got one coming out a little bit later this year, which is, I don't think it's going to be in his Logan West series. And he's made it known that it's, that's pretty hush-hush. And then CJ Box. Here's another person that I've been trying to get on the show. And the publisher is doing a wonderful time of saying, maybe later. But I'm going to persevere. He's got a new book coming out in March, and I just sent an email. I'm waiting for a reply. Damn it, Jim, I am going to get CJ Box on the show. If you haven't read CJ Box, he's a Wyoming game warden, mystery series. Shoot, he's got probably at least 20 books out now. Go read CJ Box. And Jack Alexander in chat says, I love the Dune books, which is very interesting because I talked to Terrence McCauley last week. He started he wrote The Devil Dogs of Bella Wood. So he started in World War I. Then he wrote a number of his suspense novels. I think he's got 3 now. Then he moved over to Westerns, and now he's moved over to some science fiction on Kindle. And then he says he's going to move over into horror. So, dude, if I was a writer that's what I'd do. I'd be writing on an assload of different genres because they're so much fun. I would guess it's so much fun to change all that stuff.
I'm gonna have to check out Macaulay's Western series, because the series that he talked about with the sheriff,
Yep,
West.
That's Sheriff Aaron Mackey. Hey, I want to tell you another thing, folks. I don't get any money for doing any of this stuff. I'm not paid. I'm not a shill. You go to bloviatingzeppelin.net. I don't have any ads. You don't have to worry about, replete with toe fungus ads or a paywall or any of that stuff. I'm doing okay in terms of cash, so I don't have to have all that crap. But when I promote somebody, it's because I read them and I like them. And Terrence McCauley wrote he's got 2 books out now that I talked about last week with him. Where the Bullets Fly is his first. Dark Territory is his second. And it's with his protagonist, Sheriff Aaron Mackey. And he's coming out with a 3rd and a 4th. So, yeah. Mike, you want to read those? You bet. You can get them at Pinnacle Books just because I remember that.
Yep. And finally, look, as far as you can maybe answer this more than I can, but how is this going to turn out good? How is this impeachment trial going to turn out good for the Democrats? I mean, that's the big question. That's probably in their minds. How can they turn it out good for themselves? But I don't see it. I just don't see it. And I'll leave you with that.
Thanks, Mike. And maybe that's a perfect time to give a programming note for Thursday's show. Thursday in my first hour, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to have Leo Dunson. He's a candidate. He's a black Republican dude, great guy. Technology messed me up the week before trying to get him on the show. And the phones tanked and the internet tanked, etc. So I'm going to have him on in the first hour. He is running for Nevada's 4th Congressional District. He's going to be in hour 1 on Thursday night. Hour 2, since, Mike, you happen to mention this, the impeachment, that kind of dovetails with some of the stuff that we saw in Virginia, the Second Amendment, and that dovetails with the Democrats, etc. So I'm going to have sort of a roundtable discussion, and anybody can call in. The second hour, Thursday night, with Kaiser Schuff. You've seen him, you know him, you love him. He's been here an assload of times. And Kate Krasuski, who happens to be in chat right now. And we're going to have Kate talk about her new Facebook page. I'm not going to Bigfoot her. I'll let her talk about it herself. But the 3 of us, with your phone calls, we're going to talk about the Second Amendment. We're going to talk about Virginia. We're going to talk about what's in the future for Democrats, what's in the future for you, what's in the future for survival, what happens if things pop off in a negative way. So make sure that you tune in Thursday night. It's going to be a great show. That's why you need to be here. Now, I told you this may go up to the break, maybe a little bit after. I might have to pause in the middle. When my father died in 2009 at the age of 88, it affected me a lot more than I ever thought that it would. And I still miss him today. I miss him terribly. He flew for the United States Army Air Corps in World War II. He took his primary flight training at Stockton Field in California, and he graduated in 1941. He apparently received a letter from my dad, apparently received a letter from his father named Verto before Dad was off for Points West in 1941, meaning he was going to go into the war. I found this letter amongst my dad's things in 2009. It was buried into his desk. It was in an envelope bearing the return address of some kind of a law firm in Dallas, Texas. And it was postmarked 1979. It was addressed to my grandmother, his mother, likewise in Dallas. And because of the circumstances, I never understood and I never found out, never got to ask, Why was it sent from a law firm to his mother? Did my dad ever see this letter when it was meant to be seen at the time, when his father was still alive? Or did he see it when his mother's estate closed, only after his father passed away? And I will never know. It was typewritten on onion skin paper. The words are poignant. They're sage. They're prescient. They move me, and I think they'll speak to everybody else as well. And it starts off like this. Dear son, I hope we can finish this letter so that it can be mailed in sufficient time to reach you before you board the Rattler for points west and your next experience in training as an eaglet in the Air Force in the Air Service of Uncle Sam. I've learned the very cheapest thing one will ever run across in this life is advice, because everyone wants to give it away and so few will ever accept it. So I've been several hours in completing these paragraphs, blue penciling here and there. By the way, my grandfather, Verto, I should say, was an editor for a big Dallas newspaper at the time. Blue penciling here and there, lest I make my epistle a treatise on the more abundant life of New Deal parentage, rather than a few timely remarks covering the fundamentals which do provide and form. The background is happiness and success as America measures them. And I might add here that I fervently hope that this same American measurement is applied to happiness and success will continue to be the yardstick for many years. So work hard and be ready to do your part, if necessary, to annihilate any and all of the cockeyed fascist or communist interpretations of what is best for mankind and its soul. I shouldn't be a bit surprised the first week or two after you leave home that you'll be amazed at the really remarkable memory you possess. And in your particular case, it's going to be a pleasant memory. That is what is commonly called homesickness, but when it's stripped down right to the chassis, it's merely an association of pleasant thoughts, pleasant surroundings, and pleasant people who are vitally interested in you, plus an overwhelming sense of a loss of security. Doctors sometimes use what they call a counter-irritant to take the mind off the chief pain or trouble of their patient, and the counter-irritant to an acute attack of pleasing memories is deep concentration on your work. You should be extremely grateful in that you have been a fairly regular attendant at Sunday school of a splendid common sense religion, and without even dwelling on the manifold advantages of a good Sunday school background, one of the most practical benefits it'll give you is it will help you to see things in their true proportion. Jesus once had something to say about people who strain at a gnat and swallow a camel, and one of the chief causes of much unhappiness in life is our confusion as to the relative importance of things. So many trifles seem so big and important. We indulge ourselves so much in fretting and rebelling against the minor things, we can endure a severe physical pain with genuine stoicism. But the bark of a dog or the crunch of crackers upsets us tremendously. Whenever you feel that you're beset with many troubles, take a little time off and look into the Bible, particularly the New Testament. It will do you a lot of good, and you will be amazed how your troubles will disappear. The Bible does teach you to see the big things in life in a big way, and the minor things as minor ones. It'll give anybody true perspective. As you go through life, you'll learn that the simple life is the most effective one, and also the happiest. Regardless of anybody's argument to the contrary, you will always find that the really big successful people in America today, regardless of simple pleasures, have simple taste, are very modest, and usually have a deep religious character. McKinley, a great president, put corned beef and cabbage on the White House menu, and I expect if you knew the real lowdown on that commanding officer of yours, you'd find that perhaps he has a secret yen for growing nasturtiums. The more successfully they come, the more big people are interested in getting information. They never hesitate to learn from anyone. Only small potatoes with warped mentalities are showy or pretentious, and those with an obnoxious abundance of conversation about themselves generally are using their long-winded gyrations to cover up their deficiencies. Always remember that egotism is the cause of more conversation than learning or wit. My experiences and observations have taught me that honesty is not only the best policy, but it is the only policy, because dishonesty is its own downfall sooner or later. It's been said that many wealthy people have obtained their money or their power by dishonest means, and perhaps that is so. But you will always find that sooner or later either their conscience or the law catches up with them, and the fellow with the big stick ends up either with a shiny seat in his pants or a hard sell in the hoosegow. Dishonesty is like that queer implement that Australians use, the boomerang. It always makes the circuit and comes back and smacks you in the face when you aren't looking. Dishonesty never paid dividends to anybody. It's just about as dangerous as an elephant hanging over the edge of a cliff with his tail tied to a daisy. And now to an element a little less mental, but some that I have mentioned before, but nonetheless important, is that work. Work is essential to success in any line or endeavor, and don't let any of the textbooks tell you differently. Some people have said that worry kills more men than work, but that is true because more men worry than work. So far as I know of no one who died from work in this country, but thousands may die in this country if we don't settle down to work soon. Truly, work is the most fascinating thing in the world. It rests the soul, it feeds the brain, and it gives a sense of security that is really marvelous. Never envy those who have apparently nothing on their hands but time and nothing on the brains but hair. You'll get more downright thrill in the simplest job, well done, than they will ever get in a lifetime. Nothing worthwhile was ever accomplished except by work, and any success you ever heard or know of was the result of 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. As a matter of fact, you'll find the economic progress of a nation, any nation, is generally measured by its working hour. The real fortunes and the real industries of this nation were the result not of the 45-day week, but a working day of dawn to dusk with Wednesday off for prayer meetings. The calamity howlers have spread their gospel that America is in terrible condition. But let me assure you there's nothing whatsoever wrong with America that work won't cure. So I must bring this letter to a close. I've merely scratched the surface of a few important things it will pay you to remember. I do hope you have not been affected by the skepticism of a skeptical age, and don't let the doleful howls of a few harebrained spellbinders upset you. You shall soon be in the greatest service of the greatest and finest nation in recorded history. Its principles of free speech and free enterprise shall exist. You have lived as a youngster in a period when economic and social upheavals have caused a temporary distortion in the American manner of progress, but mind you, this is only temporary, and America will come out of it, for faith and freedom and security are just as near at hand today as ever before. You are indeed a fortunate individual in that you are on the threshold of the new America that will arm itself to ensure the retention of its principles of freedom. And by the very reason of your being a part of this greater respect and a deeper love of those principles for which America stands. So in the realization of a real success in the job you have ahead of you, and I have complete confidence that you will be a success which can be measured only in terms of honesty, simplicity, tolerance, and respectability, there can be no greater honor or reward that could possibly come to me than in being your dad. And that was unsigned. And then he says, P.S. I'm enclosing a check in case you might need a little cash before your first payday. Remember, never open a pot with two pair when the deuces are wild. I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunetz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunetz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. It's hour number 2. So I got to say, welcome back to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. You can follow me on Twitter at BZEP at BZEP. Like me and follow me on my Facebook page, Bloviating Zeppelin. Are you a supporter of the Second Amendment? You know what you can do? You can go ahead and join the USGOA, the U.S. Gun Owners Association, on Facebook and help me out here. Take me out of the category, if you would, of best late-night conservatarian talk show radio that nobody has ever heard of. I'm hoping to do something this year. I'm hoping to coalesce a lot of people and a lot of folks in a lot of situations. And I'm hoping that that is you. I have some audio cuts. And yes, we are live. The only thing that wasn't live from the first hour was the Joe Wambaugh interview. That's because he didn't want to stay up until 8 p.m., and he only had sort of a small window with which to speak. Because as you would expect, well, he's got a lot of stuff to do, and he's a busy kind of guy. I get it. I dig it. So, in any event, we have the impeachment. We have Virginia. And I found audio cuts. And I'm not going to go into a lengthy discussion of impeachment. I think I'm going to let some of the politicians speak for themselves. One thing I have decided that I will not be doing is I'm not going to be perching on every moment watching this stupid impeachment. I have a fairly decent idea how these things are going to go. But my Congress critter, my former Congress critter, before they changed the damn district lines and put me almost, I swear to God, I'm almost 10 feet out of his district because that's how infinitesimally these bastards changed the district lines up where I live in my cabin at the 4,000-foot level in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Tom McClintock used to be my Congress critter, about the only conservative Republican in California left, and he has what I consider to be a really good explanation of all this impeachment foolishness stuff, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, in every election, one side wins and the other loses. Democracy only works because the losing side always respects the will of the voters. The moment that social compact breaks down, democracy collapses into chaos. Now, that's only happened twice in our nation's history. It happened in 1860 when the Democrats refused to accept the legitimate election of Abraham Lincoln, and it happened again in 2016 when the Democrats refused to accept the legitimate election of Donald Trump. The issues before us today do indeed strike at the heart of our democracy. The first calls for impeachment began just days after the 2016 election, and ever since the Democrats have been searching for a pretext. When the Mueller investigation found no evidence to support the monstrous lie that the president acted in collusion with Russia, the Democrats realized they were running out of time, and suddenly the Ukrainian phone call replaced collusion, Stormy Daniels, tax returns, emoluments, and even tweets as the reason to nullify the election, just a year before the next one is to be held. Impeachment is one of the most serious powers with which Congress is entrusted. It requires an overwhelming case of high crime supported by clear evidence that a vast majority of the nation deems compelling. Our Constitution vests the executive authority, including the enforcement of our laws, with the President, and it gives him sole authority to conduct our foreign affairs. Clearly, this includes requesting a foreign government to cooperate in resolving potentially corrupt and illegal interactions between that government's officials and ours. Now, the sum total of the Democrats' case comes down to this. Not one of their hand-picked witnesses provided any first-hand knowledge of the president ordering a quid pro quo, and two witnesses, Sonderland by testimony and Senator Johnson by letter, provided first-hand testimony that the president specifically ordered no quid pro quo. No testimony was provided that the Ukrainian government believed that there was any quid pro quo, but there are ample public statements that its officials did not believe there was such a linkage. In fact, the testimony of their witnesses crumbled under questioning, and we were left with career bureaucrats who admitted that the only evidence they offered was presumption, speculation, and what they'd read in the New York Times. It's upon this flimsy evidence that the Democrats justify nullifying the 2016 presidential election. And it's so flimsy the Democrats have had to turn our Bill of Rights on its head in order to make it. They've argued that hearsay evidence, better known as gossip, is better than direct testimony. They've argued that the burden of proof rests with the accused to prove his innocence, while at the same time denying the defense witnesses permission to testify.
Were you cognizant, folks, of the fact that essentially the Democrats are upholding Napoleonic law? They say he's not presumed innocent. As far as they're concerned, Donald Trump is presumed guilty. That's Napoleonic law. It's up to him, they say, to prove his innocence. So rule of law under the Democrats and leftists and the American media maggots as well, that can all go to hell.
They've argued that the right to confront your accuser is an invasion of the accuser's privacy. They've argued that appealing to the courts to defend your constitutional rights, as the president has done, is ipso facto obstruction of justice and evidence of guilt. They've asserted the power to determine what witnesses the defense is allowed to call. And they've argued that a crime is not necessary to impeach only impure motives in performing otherwise lawful acts, motives, of course, to be divined entirely by the accusers.
So what has this set up? What has this set up for the future? Anytime you don't like the politics or the opinions or thoughts, be they in writing or in words, you can decide that it's time to go on an impeachment path. So if the Democrats think that this only applies to Trump, how surprised they may be to discover that in the future, their people become subject to impeachment. They opened that fucking door.
These are the legal doctrines of despots, but they're the only ones that can accommodate the case before us today. This is a stunning abuse of power and a shameless travesty of justice that will stain the reputations of those responsible for generations to come. And God help our country if they should ever be given the power to replace our Bill of Rights with the doctrines that they have imposed in this process. The Democrats are fond of saying no one's above the law, but they have one unspoken caveat: except for themselves. Now, the Speaker's already short-circuited what should be a solemn, painstaking, thorough, and above all, fair process by ordering her foot soldiers on this committee to draw up articles of impeachment without this committee hearing from a single fact witness. Despite the fact that Mr. Schiff doesn't dare to appear before this committee to defend his work, we're supposed to accept his report at face value and obediently follow the Speaker's orders. As the Red Queen declared, sentence first, verdict afterwards. We can only...
Right, and exactly as Kaiser said in chat, Russia's Beria said, you know what, show me the man and I'll show you the crime.
We pray the Senate still adheres to the judicial principles of our founders. And if they do, perhaps then we can begin repairing the damage that this travesty has done to our democracy, our institutions, our principles of justice, our Constitution, and our country.
And it's been going on for 3 entire years. On the other hand, there's this, which I found today, and I found this kind of illuminating.
They never wanted him to be president. They never even thought it was possible.
This isn't a real presidential run.
Trump will not be president.
He will never be president.
But then, America spoke.
A complete earthquake.
Donald Trump wins the presidency.
And when President Trump was sworn in as the 45th president of the United States, the left lost it. This impeachment sham started the day he was elected.
The first headline in the Washington Post before the president was inaugurated was they were going to impeach him.
I will fight until he is impeached.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
I'm concerned that if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected.
This is about preventing a potentially disastrous outcome from occurring next year.
Yes.
They're impeaching me. You know why? Because they want to win an election. And that's the only way they can do it.
Yes.
So let's be clear. This is not some neutral judgment that Democrats came to reluctantly. It's not some somber moment or serious exercise for the left. It is the predetermined end of a partisan crusade.
Nancy Pelosi has said she's not going to send the articles of impeachment over.
Wait a minute. This is not very serious if you're not sending over the articles.
Which was for handing out souvenir impeachment pens.
The Congress is wasting a lot of their time and our time.
I've been a Democrat for 49 years. I'm very disappointed in the Democratic Party right now.
They are trying to prevent President Trump from winning a second term.
An angry mob is at the gate, but the United States Senate has the watch. The Senate exists for moments like this. So it's time for the adults in the room to have their seat at the table. Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats have had their turn. The sham is over. A fair trial starts now.
It's about damn time. It'll be very interesting to see what direction this happens to take. I listen to this guy when I can. He's from, the Center for Law and Justice. No, the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice. And I've listened to Jay Sekulo's show for quite some time. And now he came on today and, again, cut to the chase, because this is what's really happening in the United States of America right before our eyes.
It's also my privilege to represent the President of the United States before this chamber. Senator Schumer said earlier today that the eyes of the founders are on these proceedings. Indeed, that's true.
Hell yes.
But it is the heart of the Constitution that governs these proceedings. And what we just heard from Manager Schiff, courts have no role, privileges don't apply. What happened in the past, we should just ignore. In fact, Manager Schiff just said, try to summarize my colleague's defense of the president. He said, not in those words, of course, which is not the first time Mr. Schiff has put words into transcripts that did not exist.
Imagine that.
Mr. Schiff also talked about a trifecta. I'll give you a trifecta. During the proceedings that took place before the Judiciary Committee, the president was denied the right to cross-examine witnesses. The president was denied the right to access evidence. And the president was denied the right to have counsel present at hearings. That's a trifecta. A trifecta that violates the Constitution of the United States. Mr. Schiff did say the courts really...
And it is the ultimate trifecta. But this is interesting, because I don't know if you were paying attention. Something very interesting came out today, and it came out just before my show. And it came out from, of all places, Politico. Politico.com. I'm not sure that anybody has seen this yet, so I'm going to reveal it to you. Now, this is under the heading of Congress. Politico writes, and here's the headline. It's, who's this by? Melanie Zanona. And you have to be paying attention. And then I want you to ask yourself, how will you hear this story mentioned tomorrow? Because you heard it here tonight. So will it be held over and even mentioned at all tomorrow? I don't know, even in Fox News. Who knows? But you're going to hear it now. This is the headline. Schiff may have mischaracterized Parnas evidence, documents show. Oh, who's this guy Parnas? This is the ace in their pocket that the Democrats believe they have. A subheadline says unredacted material shows he may have referred to the wrong Mr. Z. What? I don't quite get what's going on. Well, let's check. House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff appears to have mischaracterized. Okay, let me translate that for you in journal leftist speak. Let me translate that for you in American media maggot speak. Lied. House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff appears to have lied when he mischaracterized a text message exchange between two players in the Ukraine saga, according to documents obtained by Politico now. A possible error the GOP will likely criticize, do you think? As another example, the Democrats' rushed effort to impeach President Donald Trump. Do you already see? She's putting out the information, but she's op-edding the article, which is what the Democrats do these days. I'm sorry, that's what the American media maggots do these days. The issue arose when Schiff, unfortunately he's from my state, California, spell it with a K, sent a letter to House Judiciary Committee Jerry Nadler, Jerry the Hutt, last week summarizing a trove of evidence from Lev Parnas, Parnas, if you want to look him up on your favorite search engine, an indicted former associate of Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. In one section of the letter, oh, this is great. This is salacious. Democrats can't wait to just jump on this. Schiff claims that Parnas continued to try to arrange a meeting with President Zelensky, citing a very specific text message exchange when Parnas tells Giuliani, trying to get us Mr. Z. The remainder of the exchange, which was attached to Schiff's letter, was redacted. But an unredacted version of the exchange shows that several days later, Parnas sent Giuliani a Word document which appears to show notes from an interview with Mykola Zlochevsky, the founder of Burisma, followed by a text message to Giuliani that states, Mr. Z answers my brother. That suggests that Parnas was referring to Zlochevsky, not Zelensky. So if I had a producer, which I don't have, what you heard basically is, hello, producer. But I don't have a producer, so that's not what you heard. Maybe we're getting into the weeds of the details of this, but what I'm emphasizing to you right now is this is another in a continuing series of lies from the Democrats who will do anything they possibly can to eliminate President Trump. And again, remember this. I voted for Trump. Some of you may have voted for Trump. So this is nothing more than attempting to remove our vote because they don't like him. And he's not a member of the Insider Club. And he's rude. And he's cantankerous. And so he's got to go. He's got to go. He's doing too many damn things. And he's being more effective than any other president. And he's also making the economy great. Making America great. The lowest unemployment for blacks and Hispanics. Blexit is blossoming nicely. And I've got an interesting story about a company called GeoQuant a little bit later. Now, I said that Thursday night we're going to be talking about Virginia. I'm going to Bigfoot that show a little bit myself right now because everyone was saying the leftist Democrats in the American media, maggots, and Governor Northam, blackface Northam, were saying violence is going to erupt like a shitstorm tomorrow, yesterday I should say, it was going to erupt in Virginia, and they put up their gates and their chain link fences. Why is it that chain link fences are okay for Democrats, but they're not okay for the country, and they're not okay to secure the border? So everything, as you would expect, fell apart yesterday in Virginia at the Capitol, didn't it? No, there were tons of arrests from all these white supremacists yesterday at the Capitol in Virginia. No, there weren't. Who got arrested? Here's a story. The only person arrested at the Virginia gun rights rally was a mask-wearing LGBT activist. The left caused the threat at the rally. While today's gun rights rally at the Virginia Capitol was an incredibly peaceful event, there was one masked suspect, and the police said, "You can't be masked," who was arrested by police. And it turned out to be a far-left LGBT activist. The Virginia Capitol announced on Monday that 21-year-old Michaela Beschler was arrested at approximately 1:30 p.m. in the blah, 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 blah. Her Facebook profile is evidence of her far-left politics with multiple posts promoting the LGBT agenda. There was no other arrest. The other thing that I have to point out is, sadly, there were altogether way too many black, white supremacists there for anyone's liking.
Are you a white supremacist?
Yeah. Am I a white?
I was told there'd be
this
white
ain't
supremacists.
Me, I got dreads.
Oh wow, you really are blackface. Like
United we stand.
That's
brother.
right, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
United we stand. But they mad because there wasn't no civil unrest. Now they gonna be mad because there wasn't no fight. Now they gonna be mad because didn't nobody get locked up. They gonna be mad because all the officers is at peace. They gonna be mad because ain't nobody out here fighting. They mad, but guess what? United we stand. That's what this was about.
That's right, brother.
I'm from St. Louis, and I ain't even had to bring no weapon. Don't need no weapon. Don't none of us need no weapon, but we got them.
We got it.
We got them. We got each other back. Why?
Hell yes.
'Cause united we stand. That's what it's about.
That's right.
United we stand.
Right, bro. That's right.
White, black, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, whatever. United we stand. They not finna make this no communist state. They not finna make us no felons. They not finna turn our law enforcement officers against us just because y'all on some nonsense. United we stand.
United we stand. I gotta tell you, I love the hell out of that guy. And then the black white supremacists never stopped. They gotta stop. What's wrong with this picture?
For having me here, for having all of us here. This is a historic moment. And if anything, of course, it makes sense that it's on MLK Day. Why? Because although the left wants us to believe in everybody.
So, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. That's a black female talking in Virginia. Where were all the white supremacists? Thousands of them. Well, then you had a guy named Sheriff Richard Vaughn of Grayson County, Virginia, and he stepped up to say a word.
City or Commonwealth still be. If the bills go through as proposed, they will not be enforced. They're unconstitutional. We swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Virginia, and that's what we'll do.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's pretty clear. If the bills go through as proposed, they will not be enforced. They are unconstitutional. Then there was this. Can you possibly feature this? I loved it. This happens to be from the American Mirror, but you could pick up this article just about anywhere. Gun rights protesters. I'm sorry. I'm so easily entertained. Gun rights protesters clean up trash at end of Virginia rally. Protesters that were there in support of the Second Amendment, they tried, oh my God, how could they have done this? They tried to leave Richmond, Virginia, a little cleaner than when they found it Monday morning. So then those evil white supremacists and black supremacists, black, white, female, and male supremacists were caught cleaning up and collecting garbage in plastic bags. Huh? Imagine that.
It's a birthday present for Ralph Northam. Yeah. All right, there we go. I got some over here. Thank you. Put it in.
He's giving trash. The guy calls it a birthday present for Ralph Northam. Here's an article from WashingtonExaminer.com. What do I got? I got about 2 minutes before the bottom of the hour break. And I am going to have some happy stories coming. Maybe I'll start it with this. This is a story which got about, this much column inch, maybe a column inch. One in the Washington Examiner. GeoQuant, a political risk intelligence platform driven by artificial intelligence, is predicting a President Trump re-election. The company tells us that its instability risk indicator, hope you're sitting down for this, is lower than it was in 2016 and 2018, suggesting government turnover is unlikely in the 2020 election.
Yeah. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here from the sumptuous and palatial and resplendent SHR Media Studios. Are you a supporter of the Second Amendment? Join the U.S. Gun Owners Association on Facebook. I'm a member and you should be too, damn it. So thanks for listening here tonight. This has been a great show. I had Joe Wambaugh on in the first hour. I had a couple of phone calls. By the way, if you, call them you, call them you. If you, E-W-E, just like me, they long to be close to you. Want to call in? The number is 575-208-4811. 208-4811. As I explained the first time I started using that number, why 575? Why the area code 575? Because that, by the way, folks, 575 just happens to be, and it is the truth, it just happens to be the area code for Roswell, New Mexico. So if you call in at 575-208-4481, I just want to tell you, you're going to Roswell. And I also want to tell you this. Okay, I have a choice. I can go with a couple of news stories, or I can go to happy stories. I kind of started with a happy story. You know what? I haven't done this in a while. I got about 25 minutes left. And anybody can call in also. But, yeah, I think I'll do this first.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Yeah, I haven't done this for a while, and I'm kind of backlogged a little bit on my happy stories. The first happy story is Michael Flynn. This is from Fox News. Michael Flynn has decided that he's going to move to withdraw his guilty plea, citing bad faith by government. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I got Kaiser on the line. Kaiser, are you there?
Yes, I am busy, and you're exactly right about that. That is a good story.
Okay, well, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if you're in the thrall of perhaps a UFO is circling your domicile, even as we're speaking. But I think that was a great, let's see, how long ago was this?
Is that better?
A little bit. You're still a little choppy. This was, what, January 14th.
Okay.
Michael Flynn moved to withdraw his guilty plea, citing bad faith by the government. I think that's a happy story. The court filing came 6 days after the Justice Department reversed course to recommend up to 6 months of prison time in his case, alleging he was not fully cooperating or accepting responsibility for his actions. Do you remember, Kaiser, how it was that Michael Flynn came to be where he was? Was it not James Comey who said, the forthright James Comey, who said that he knew the new White House was weak, so he would send in agents to talk to General Flynn on the down low, on the DL, to just get some information, and that's why he thought he was talking to the FBI agents. It wasn't an interview per se. They were just speaking to him. James Comey knew that he could pull that off, because he believed that the White House was something at that point that he should be taking advantage of. And do you remember, Kaiser, what the FBI agents said about Michael Flynn after speaking to him? They said, we thought he was telling the truth.
Yep. I remember the exact quote by Comey. It was before the White House he was going to terminate. One of those agents was Strzok.
Imagine
a lot
that.
of people forget that.
Imagine
and
that.
now it's a disgrace. And, you know, the 1002s, the 1003s, shoot, forms are all jittering through my head. It's the Smenopes. It's your line. Anyways, I think it's 1002. You would know better than I worked with. You would did, and I've seen it before. So, to my liking, from what they said initially, was that he was fully cooperative, and they did not feel he was lying, and it was because of a call. Come to find out what the evidence they used was while they came with something.
Yeah.
Down in, I don't know, Bahamas.
This is important.
A drunken call when.
This is an important safety tip. Dave Milner in chat, Kaiser says that Kaiser sounds like he's calling from the Marianas Trench studio. So you're breaking up somehow.
Okay, well, it sounds Korean, so I don't know.
Okay. And then Dave says, Kaiser's calling in from his sumptuous studio 40 feet beneath Lake Michigan. Okay, I got to say, that is some kind of funny stuff.
It's great. It is great. No, it's down at his castle. But in all honesty, though, I remember they said he's right and honest. And they sure right up. And then it got remanufactured. If you remember right, the date was, there was nothing button out and nothing to pour money.
I'll tell you what.
I got a bad connection.
Can you do us a favor? Hang up, call back, and we'll see if that clears things up. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. Here's a second happy story. Kramer said, this is from, of all places, CNBC. Kramer says tariffs worked. Trump's strategy forced China to agree to a trade deal. Imagine that. Now, we were told that tariffs never work. Tariffs will never work. And Jim Cramer, CNBC's Jim Cramer, said, I keep wondering when people are going to recognize that it's historic that tariffs did in fact, succeed. U.S. and Chinese officials were set to sign the Phase 1 trade agreement at the White House on Wednesday morning, which they did. Cramer said, this is very interesting. The Chinese were kind of accepting that they had to get something in order to keep the American market. Let's try again. Kaiser, how you doing?
Good. Is this any better, buddy?
Oh, my God, that's 110% better.
Okay. Tell Alaskan, no, I haven't had any martinis yet. I'm waiting until the after show with you.
Okay, great. Perfect.
But the point that I was trying to say with Flynn, I'm super happy he's done it. And, yes, he stands to be screwed over by the federal government, but they tried to bankrupt his ass.
Yes, yes.
I hope he can break it off. Huh?
Yes, that was the exact point. He gave up like a lot of people do in terms of lawsuits when they're running out of cash, have to sell their house, etc. And finally, after a while, that's the point of the government prosecuting people is you just get broken. You just get broken.
That's exactly what they do. They want to break the man. That's why I got my house in my wife's name. I'm smart. They can't take shit from me. I'm a poor bum, own a car. That's it. And it's used. So screw him. Here's the whole point: is he was an honest man. I'll tell you, Obama was very pissed about two things. First, he thought he had NSA on his side. He didn't realize, and nobody did. I even thought he was a black cat. If you remember when we first started talking about it, the admiral, who was the head of NSA at that time, I'm mind dumping his name.
Rogers.
Rogers,
Mike Rogers.
Yeah, Rogers.
Okay.
Michael Rogers. Yeah. Mike Rogers is the one who uncovered the paperwork, the back paperwork, and going backwards in time, which they can do, and bouncing three people back to see where this news stuff was coming from. And Flynn went in there, and at least he got what's still being underreported is the stuff that Flynn has caused to happen. Flynn actually went there because he knew where the bodies were buried, and the arrest every day of child freak shows is proof of that. Because Flynn knew that the government was corrupt. I mean, a lot of that stuff, human trafficking, what some people call white slavery, that's done through the auspices of like State Department and some of the NGOs that work through them, and even USAID, which is the CIA's friendly face, by the way.
Their friendly place.
Yep, their friendly face. Yeah, they give you all the food, the blankets, the tents, all that nice little neat stuff. And the CIA will give the beans, bullets, and Band-Aids.
Isn't it funny that we're discovering, and we would never have discovered this, that BZ's reversal theory, his axiom, is true? Whatever it is that the Democrats, leftists, and American media maggots are accusing Trump of, it's the exact same thing of which they themselves are guilty. Imagine that.
Yep.
Hence, Ricky, the introduction of Ricky Gervais to the, what was that, the Golden Globes? and said, your friend Epstein, your friend, your plane, the one that he took to Fantasy Island, etc. We would never have found that out. We would never have found that out had Hillary Clinton be in there. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you, everybody. Thanks again. We got Simone in chat, Mike in chat, Dave in chat, Jack in chat, Kaiser's in chat, the Alaskans in chat, Mama's in chat, one viewer is in chat. Let me ask you this, Kaiser. Do you think Hillary Clinton is going to come back from the dead to run? Especially if they decide... If they decide that they're going to go a brokered convention, because she doesn't want to run. She just wants to be appointed, president for life.
Yeah, she wants coronated.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't doubt that she will. And my money's still on. And Vegas is still taking numbers on it. So if Vegas is putting book on it, then it's probably a good hand to keep looking at. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Let me promo this Thursday night. I did it while Kate was still in chat. She may be in there, but I don't see her name. Anyway, I have tentatively arranged Kaiser and Kate Krasinski to come back on Thursday night in the second hour after Leo Dunson. We're going to talk about Virginia, the Second Amendment, etc. It'll be a grand time. It will be had by all. Alcohol may be involved. I'm not exactly sure yet, but folks, you need to be here. Kaiser, let me ask you another question, if I might. I'm not going to delve deeply into the impeachment, but I'm submitting this may be true, and I'd like your opinion. And folks, I'd like your opinion too, what you think. This impeachment right now is kabuki theater of the absurd, and I'm submitting that it's a carefully crafted play put on for a really limited audience. And I don't think that audience is you and me. I'm going to make a suggestion that may seem a little wacky, which is why I'd like your input. This theater we're watching isn't for me. It isn't for you. It isn't for human consumption. It isn't for the rest of the people on Fox and CNN. I'm submitting that it is specifically for 3 people. Count them 3. Because this is all the Democrats need. Betrayal. Woe, hate, discontent, and betrayal. And so I'm suggesting that this play being put on, this kabuki theater, is for 3 people. They're all Republicans. Rhinos. Flakes. McCains. And I specifically mention it's being put on for Mitt Romney. It's being put on for Lisa Murkowski, and it's and it's being put on for Susan Collins. And if they can get those 3 people in the Senate to defect, I think that's who this weird play is for. Kaiser, or the people that are listening right now, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree with you. But just like McCain did with the, what they call it, the 8. I can't remember exactly what they called it back then, but it was the 8. The
Gang of 8.
Gang of 8, that's it. Gang of 8. And that's what they needed then, and they got it. And remember, McCain was the one who had to hand march that letter straight over to the White House and make a big show of it, so that he gave it to Justice. And people forgot that Comey had to go talk to Trump to tell him about it, so it become newsworthy.
Right. That's how you get it exposed. That's exactly how you get it exposed. McCain found the dirty dossier, a copy of it, not there isn't just one. There were a bunch of copies, and made sure that he trotted it directly over to the FBI. Because
and Nunez,
go ahead.
Nunez marched his happy ass directly over to, and they called that a whole big conspiracy theory too. He marched right over to the White House's skiff so he could eyeball it himself, and he said something about this is not right. He said that quickly.
Yes, and the other thing that I think we forget because this has not been placed out into the ozone very much, is that when he first sat down with Comey, and Comey gave him the briefing to kind of spiff him up on what was going on, after that meeting with Comey, one of the first things that Donald Trump was thinking is that, am I being set up here? And the answer was, again, just like he thought that he was being wiretapped in the Trump Tower, it turns out that a lot of the thoughts that he's had historically are prescient. He may not use the right words or phrases, but he seems to be shockingly accurate, doesn't he, Kaiser?
Well, here's what I'll say. People also forget this. Right after the election was over, you had Mike Rogers have a quick meeting at Trump Tower with Trump. They set up a quick one of them portable skiffs. They did the meeting there real quick in one of the rooms, and they moved their entire operation where? To Jersey. And that was right after the meeting. People fail to remember this because that's when Trump said, I've been wiretapped. So, you know, Rogers had all of it by that time, and that's why, remember, Obama said, well, that Mike Rogers, I really don't trust him. You better get rid of him. When he had his little meeting with Trump. Remember that?
Yep.
So, I mean, the fuckery has been afoot for quite a while, my brother.
Oh, my
and
God,
they're
yes.
losing. But they're losing. That's what's so hilarious.
Okay, so you're making the clear and distinct prediction that in November, on November 4th, that we'll have the second term of Donald Trump. But with that prediction, let me ask you this question. Do you think the Democrats have it within themselves, if he wins a second term, not to go for a second impeachment because this one will not be successful? Do you think they...
Oh, no, they're going
to... Will they do it
hit
again,
him.
do you think, in a second term?
Oh, they'll hit him as soon as this one gets thrown out. They'll get another one right on him. What's her name already is talking about it from your state. She can barely speak English.
Oh, Maxine Waters.
Maxine. Yeah, she's already said it. So, and they've been trying to impeach him like you played earlier, just to kick that dead horse one more time. I think it was Dan Blather who was saying it. On the first day, they're filing for impeachment, trying to get him impeached, talking about it. Yeah, this is their whole goal. And as Nancy, this is a personal thing to the Dems, because how dare Trump deny Hillary her coronation? And the utter unmitigated goal of Donald Trump from trying to keep what we've now found is the highly beneficial Clinton Foundation from being able to launder all that money for the Atlantic Council, for the Dems, and it ain't, and maybe some Republicans that are over there in you just said it, Collins, McCraskey,
Murkowski,
and Romney's
right.
side. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, this is, and trust me, I put the Bushes in that same little elitist aisle because remember, Bush Sr. used to always play golf with that man, Bill Clinton.
Well, what people seem to conveniently forget is that George H.W. Bush was also a CIA director, so he knows pretty much where all the bodies are buried. It's interesting, Devin Nunes, you mentioned Devin Nunes. For whatever the crazy ass, I don't know how he ever got elected in California, spell it with a K, but he did. And now Devin Nunes is back. He's back. This is another happy story. I think this is probably the last one of the night. Devin Nunes just came out with a story that said Republicans have an active investigation into IG Michael Atkinson. That's Inspector General Michael Atkinson. I go to sarahcarter.com. She's a great, great reporter, one of the few actual journalists left. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Sarah A. Carter, sarahacarter.com. Ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, told her Republicans have an active investigation into intelligence community Inspector General Michael Atkinson. If you remember, folks, he was the dude who told lawmakers about the whistleblower complaint that led to Trump's being impeached right here, right now. So Nunes speaks to Carter and says that transcripts of Atkinson's secret testimony are going to end up exposing that the IG either did one of two things. He either lied or he needs to make corrections to his statements to lawmakers. The transcripts have been kept from the public by the House Intelligence Committee, namely one Adam Schiff, because it is damaging to their impeachment scam. Wow, that's a shocker. I didn't see that coming, and I find that absolutely shocking. That's terrible. That's terrible. Let's see. Do I have? Yeah, you know what? I do have a happy story. I have. Oh gosh, where is it? Okay, I just saw it. Okay. This is a final happy story. An armed citizen shoots and kills a suspect who ambushed and shot a state trooper on the highway. This was in Tonopah, Arizona. A state trooper was shot by a random suspect as he was trying to help a woman who had just had her vehicle roll over on the highway. Described as an ambush-style attack, the trooper was attempting to block lanes of the highway when a man came up and shot him in the chest. A fight between the two of them then began on the ground. A driver who saw what was happening came up and came to the aid of the trooper who was asking for help. The suspect ignored the man's commands to stop the attack, at which point the man went to his vehicle to retrieve his firearm. He ran back to the scene, shooting and killing the suspect. I think, Kaiser, that's a happy story.
Oh, indeed it is. One thing is, when we were talking about the Gang of Three, they have a lot of pull with other knows, and that was what the whole deal was with the Gang of Eight. It wasn't just those 8 that flipped under McCain. It was their gravitas of pulling other people into their shitty little black holes. So, and they'll probably be able to remind people of, little dirt they got on them, like, what was the old saying? Don't get caught with a dead girl or a live boy. They've been saying that about Congress and the Senate since I was a kid.
Okay. Let's go with this. Oh, Mamba, this is interesting. This is a good point to remember. Mamba put up in chat, it's going to take 2/3 of the Senate to convict Trump. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, there'll be an oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside. No person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. I still think they're playing to those 3. I think they're waiting for the break of those 3, and I think they think when those 3 break that others will follow suit. But this was a perfect way to wrap up the show. Thank you, Dave Milner, who said, never underestimate the spinelessness of established Republicans.
Indeed.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
Monsieur has been locked.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at bzepp and on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Shure and Electro Voice microphones, Arrakis boards, and Pratt & Whitney engines thrust. You can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than an hour. Thank you ever so kindly for listening live. Thanks to Joe Wambaugh for the first hour. Thanks to everybody calling in. Thanks to everyone being in chat. Thanks for listening in particular in podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to do so, especially listening late at night in your busy day or your busy night. So, Thursday night, be here. And Leo Dunson Thursday night. There's a shot show tomorrow. Huh? Shot show tomorrow. God bless, take care, and be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.
Now you know the rest of the story.
That's all, folks.